Welcome to the Skoll World Forum on Social Entrepreneurship, coming to you live from Oxford, England. Now we're going to be discussing about how business can be best supported to create social change. And I've got two entrepreneurs here with me on different sides of the planet. And I'm thinking Africa, South America, once connected as one continent, but now separated, but of course here today connected on our sofa. I'm very delighted to introduce Olivia Muiru. You're the Executive Director of B Lab in East Africa, and you really brought the B Corps movement to East Africa. So congratulations. And just very quickly, because we're going to be discussing a lot about B Corps, let's have from each of you a definition of B Corps.
Business.
B as in your badge, and B is your badge.
Business is a driving force for change in the world.
Your definition?
Business is a force for good.
A force for good, a force for change, a force for good change.
Yeah.
That sounds great.
Positive change.
Positive change. And you're building the movement in East Africa. And what you do is you provide free assessments of businesses and looking at their business and legal framework, but also B Corps certification in order that they can really change the purpose of a company. And before companies go through this certification process, you help them with steps along the way. And Marcel, on Twitter, you call yourself a social entrepreneur, a cancer survivor, and a cathedral builder. You're co-founder of Dynamo, which is all about empowering social entrepreneurs to empower low-income families. You're also co-founder of Sistema B Brazil, which is all about strengthening the B Corps community there and redefining success in business. And it was really interesting to read that when you were only 17, you started your first business, which was creating one of the first internet cafes in Sao Paulo, Brazil. So congratulations for that. Now, Olivia, you've given, am I right, 26 East African companies, 26?
We're now 28.
28, whoa, two more in just over a year and a half. And they've tackled a host of different problems and challenges. Can you give me a few examples?
Sure. I'll speak to the two oldest that we have in market. The first one is called Ecolibrium. It's a Ecolibrium. It's a B Corp that is based in Kakamega, which is in rural Kenya. And they work on providing access to clean cook stoves for residents in the Kakamega region. And anyone who's familiar with Kenya, Kakamega tends to be one of the lowest income regions in the country. And through their initiative, they've created thousands of jobs.
So how can the women and the families buy these clean cook stoves rather than, because of course if they're just using locally found firewood, there's no stove to buy.
So that's what's awesome about this organization. What they do is they actually make the cook stoves, and it's the women in those communities that make it. So they use locally sourced material, so it makes it inexpensive for the families that are using it. And then to answer the firewood thing is they've now started making briquettes out of material that's a bit better for you health-wise. So they've kind of thought through every single challenge that any family that has to use cook stoves goes through.
And of course it's transformational, isn't it? Because some of the worst cases of air pollution is when people are using bad methods of cooking inside their own homes. So they're just being literally suffocated by the heating or cooking fuels.
Yes, exactly. And through kind of this initiative that they've created, they start educating women as well. So it's the women who make the cook stoves then go out and educate other women on why this is important. And they've now started bringing in men because, when you talk about cooking, it's always a woman's role. And now the men are seeing this difference. They've started getting into the conversation. And that has also led to conversations around reforestation, because Kakamega has lowland forests and it's the only lowland forest in all of Kenya. And it was at risk of deforestation. And so through starting with cook stoves, it's led all the way to conserving the environment as well. So that's one of our darlings in market.
And are all B Corps, are they all for-profit businesses, Marcel?
They are all for-profit businesses because we believe that the power of using market-driven solutions to tackle the world's biggest problems is social or mental challenges.
And why is that? Is it because these are self-sustaining? They've got the money to continue and scale and grow without having to rely on charity or foundation help?
Yes, and there is an incredible opportunity now to use the power of such companies, the private sector, to design innovative and creative solutions to address such as the Agenda 2030. Implementing the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, may cost the planet $4 trillion per year. Can we imagine only governments doing this? No. So it's important to involve and engage private and social sector.
And B Corps in your country, in Brazil, and you in Sao Paulo, or what's your geographical empire?
I am based. I'm based in Sao Paulo, but we have B Corps throughout Brazil.
And what are some of the most exciting challenges that they are tackling?
Well, they are creating new markets that people never believed before, such as Vivenda. Vivenda created a business model that provides people in favelas the opportunity to renovate their houses. So more than providing health or security, which is important, they are restoring the family's dignity. So I think it's an important issue that United Nations pick habitation or accommodation, housing as
it's one of the SDGs, isn't it?
Yes, exactly. And mainly the SDG number 10, reduced inequalities. If we do not tackle housing problems in the world, not only in Brazil, we will not solve social inequalities.
And what's the income source of the company that you're referring to?
They pay for the house renovated, and they pay in different installments.
The communities are paying?
Yeah, families pay for that.
Paying.
So it's a sustainable model in long term. So it's just a type of a big corp that's creating a new market in existing needs.
So we are drawing pictures here today. So let us draw what's going on with these B Corps. And I'll just do a green, and because you're both wearing this green badge, and you can help me by both drawing and also describing in order that we understand a bit about how B Corps works. Because am I right that B Corps, in order to be, go for a pen, you can join in.
Since we're in Skoll.
We're in Skoll. So you've got some hoops to jump through. Is that correct if you want to be certified as a B Corps business? Is that?
Yes.
So tell me about these hoops.
If you want to certify, the first step is you take the B Impact Assessment.
Okay.
It's an online assessment. Anyone can access it at bimpactassessment.net. And this helps us to measure and see what type of impact the organization is having around their workers, community, environment.
So you're looking at
and
positive
customers.
or negative or both?
Positive.
We're looking at positive,
all about positive
change. But what about if they pollute the environment or something?
Well, they don't have points for that, but if they have actions to mitigate and then cause a positive impact, that will really considered.
Okay, and with the B Corps, it's about kind of energizing companies, isn't it, with community and with a whole range of assistance. So we'll put a bit of spring, because that's, you can kind of join in some way.
Absolutely.
So we're doing the assessment hoop, and what's next?
Well, the assessment is online, confidential, and free.
Great.
Right? After the company.
And you can do it on your phone, or do you need a computer?
A computer will give you a better user experience.
Okay. You can also get it on your phone, an iPad, anything.
Okay, so you can get it on your you can do it on your laptop.
Yeah.
Okay.
Then you go through the assessment that we will evaluate in 5 different dimensions: governance, business model, workers, community, environment, and that will have a score. And this is score in a range of 0 and 200. If the company reaches the minimum of 80 points, the company is eligible to certify as a B corporation.
Okay, come from 0 to 200, and it's got to get to 80.
Yeah. And let's say that the median of over 100,000 companies that have gone through the B Impact Assessment is 55. So we are saying that those who are above 80 are really making difference.
Okay, and what's the next hoop?
Next hoop is verification, because everything you're telling us here is self-reported.
Okay.
So we have a team that then comes in.
To actually check on whether you're telling the truth.
Exactly.
Verification.
Trust but verify.
Okay, so you're part of, and you were one of these verifier assessors, is that right?
That's how I started at B-Lab.
Yes.
8 years ago.
Okay, so what did you do when you were doing the verification?
So when you go through the verification process, we ask companies to provide us with documents. So the first thing is like a list of questions that will help us to, a list of documents that will help us to verify the questions that you have. And then to make it personal, we would have a phone call with you.
Okay.
And I can no longer draw old phones, but we'd have a phone call with somebody.
We can have a mobile. We can use mobile for verification. That's okay.
Yeah. So then I would have a call with the company, and this was anywhere in the world, from Australia to Taiwan, anywhere in the world, have that call with them out of my little office in Nairobi, and use that time to be able to verify the assessment, the documents.
How do you know they're telling you the truth?
And so you have the documentation already provided for you before you have the call, so that you can be able to know what is available for you. And you also look at the company online. So you do your own research about the company with their website, any material that you can find about whatever literature is there on the company.
Great. And then lastly?
I think one of the most important steps is to amend your bylaws, the articles of incorporation. So you include what we call B clauses. This is to raise or to bring more responsibility to the manager, administrator, entrepreneur, to consider a company as a purpose to cause positive impact, duties, so responsibility to consider all stakeholders in short and long-term decision, and also the commitment with transparency to measure and report your impact.
Okay, so you're going to consider, oops, this is a funny looking person, but you're considering a whole range of different stakeholders.
Yes.
And you've got to report and you've got to measure. As we know, we go towards what we measure, a whole range in order to reach all these different stakeholders and not just consider the shareholders. And that really transforms. And it's kind of interesting because B Corp was originally from the US, and here you are from different places. How have you in any way modified anything which B Corp does so that it works in your own geographies?
I'm interested as well.
I think two things maybe. One, we are really focused on small companies. About 80% of our community in Brazil are small businesses. But after a large company, the first publicly traded company to certify as a B corporation called Natura Cosmetics.
Oh yes, I think I know it. That's everywhere, isn't it?
Exactly.
And that's Brazilian.
Yeah, Brazilian. They recently acquired Body Shop. So Natura was the first publicly traded certified.
Did it acquire Body Shop or did Body Shop acquire it?
They did acquire Body Shop.
Yes. Fantastic.
And they acquired an Australian company called Aesop as well.
Yes,
so
I know. That's a fantastic, beautiful company.
So Natura was the very first large company to certify in Brazil. That changed not only the movement in Brazil, but globally.
Yes.
And also an innovation that we had to do in Brazil is that because of Natura, other large multinationals and publicly traded companies got interested in certifying or learn more about the movement. And obviously, there is a point of scaling with integrity, there is a point of capacity, and so on. So we developed other programs, including we called in Portuguese Caminho Mais B, which means like a B journey, to help company throughout this journey to certify. The certification is not the end line, it's just a consequence. The main point is to help them measuring their impact with the same rigor as they measure their profit.
So they're starting to think differently because they know at the end of every quarter, every year, how often have they got to measure this impact?
3 years is the term sheet that they have to recertify and remeasure.
Every 3 years?
Every 3 years. But we incentivize them to measure every year.
Wow. And what about you and the thoughts about how B Corp, if anything, has been modified in East Africa?
That's a great question. I was thinking about that, and it's a lot of things that we had to modify. When we set up the East Africa office with funding from the DFID, which was fantastic.
That's the UK government aid organisation.
Exactly. Thank you. We opened in the middle of an election year in Kenya, and it was a tough year for us. But what was helpful is it gave us this time frame to build trust in the idea of B Corp, because at that time companies were unwilling to commit to the certification because they didn't know what type of government we will have. And we had 2 elections in 1 year, which is insane. And so in that year it was a lot of training up, connecting them to other communities so that they can understand what this movement is about. It wasn't as quick of a sell because you don't have a Natura there that we could use as a great example of large organizations. organizations. And so we had to start with a trust basis in East Africa.
So they trust you as a valid certification process? Because I suppose people are thinking, what the hell? Why should we go through this? We've never heard of this.
Yeah.
You know, who are you? You're non-government. What will it mean for us if we go through this process? How will it help us improve our business or improve, you know, the work that we're doing?
Exactly. Yeah. And you know, it's so weird when I tell people election year helped us in that, because it was a time of uncertainty, so it helped us build certainty for companies. And
what type
this
of
is
certainty?
why
Explain.
in terms of like-mindedness of the movement, because if you have companies like Economies that are doing something so insanely crazy that was purely NGO focused before, they want to know that there are other businesses that will think like them, and they want it to be a certification that will help them, not just something that's a nice to have but leads nowhere.
And how does being a B Corp help companies in both of your geographies?
In mine,
Go ahead.
Sorry. in my region, it was definitely the idea of community. So now with the 28, we try to bring them together as often as possible. They share ideas with each other. We also connect them to global B Corps. So there are those ones who need to come to the UK or the US. We always make sure we connect them with other B Corps in their market. And having the assessment itself, I mean, this whole process, the verification, each year going through the assessment internally to help your team understand what they need to work on. All those are great things that add value back to the company, rather than just being a certification that you sit on for 3 years and then renew only when it is needed.
So it's almost it's going through this process, and then it has to, and then you've got a bit of a cycle here, haven't you?
Yeah.
It's a bit of a return.
Yes, exactly.
I would highlight only the thing, besides the point that Olivia said that it also happens in Brazil, is that this movement is not only about the certification. It's a movement of people that use business as a force for good. That means that people feel part of this. The companies can attract and retain more talents. Investors now have options of investments that truly cause positive change. And there is a key element, which is positioning. Companies truly want to position themselves to consumers, to all stakeholders, that they are really concerned and aware of the challenges and opportunities that we have for this century.
It's very interesting because people in the West, there seems to be a growing, consumers are becoming, you know, greater activists, and people are choosing to buy, not always, but sometimes, where they feel that the company shares their values. When individuals have got a lot less discretionary money and they're buying because it's really tough and they're looking for price because they don't have a choice, that's presumably a little harder to get them excited about buying from a B Corp, which might be more expensive because it's having to spend time going through these hoops. How do you manage that challenge?
It's a continuous challenge. We have to tackle that, trying to build the most inclusive movement that we can. That means incentivizing companies that are creating innovative products, innovating also in process, in business models, because we cannot only embed the price for a better planet in the final cost for the consumers. It's a whole new model that we need to rethink and redesign. So that's what we try to do.
And following up on that, I think it also brings the idea of collaboration, because this space is not just business, go do this, it's business, government, NGO, everyone. Like, let's come together and try to figure this out. I mean, I come from a country where you're telling somebody to buy almond milk, although I don't know if that's the best idea here, versus dairy, like milk that costs them 50 cents, almond milk will cost them $4. No, that's a lost conversation there. Or buy locally made dresses that will cost you maybe 1,000 more than something from China that is cheaper. So the other thing that we look at is how do we bring everybody together in that space to also understand discretionary income is a big challenge in our market. And so one of our partners in China, we have a B Lab office in China.
Wow.
We're now trying to put together a research paper to look at how can we better the relationship between China and businesses in Kenya, and how can we create something that's a bit more sustainable, so that in as much as you're getting products from China, that they're good quality, and they're also developing talent in Kenya that enables us to create things in market. So that's something we're hoping to release in a few months.
That's very exciting, and presumably also interesting for you in Brazil, because presumably China is also a market whereby cheap goods easily accessible.
Yeah, Brazil is very known for producing raw materials.
Yeah.
Now we have the opportunity to think about a new economy that is more inclusive and also more sustainable, and think about regeneration. That may change emerging markets, that may change emerging countries as Brazil, that has produced raw material, to think about new businesses that are regenerating the planet, regenerating lives, regenerating communities, building public goods, global public goods. So I see a clear opportunity for emerging markets like Latin America or Africa, Asia, to reposition these markets to think about a really new economy.
That's fantastic. A lovely place to end it, about businesses building global public goods. Thank you so much, Marcel Fukayama and Olivia Muiru. Coming up in 20 minutes, we're going to be talking about very playful ways of engaging with refugees. Looking forward to join you then.